Welcome to my series on the SENsible SENCO. If you haven't done so already and stumbled upon this by accident, then check out my first video in the series. This is video 2 version 1. It's about getting the job in a brand new school where everything is starting from a clean slate. If this is not relevant to you, check out one of these instead. Version 5 is particularly useful if you're already enrolled and need to refresh things. I make no secret of the fact that the content of these 5 videos is actually quite similar, but they have their own little nuances. So, a brand new school. I think the slide says it all, really. You have a blank slate from which to work, along with the opportunity to embed everything correctly from the start. Staff will be engaging with new systems from the off, and you'll all be overwhelmed, but with a strong SEN focus, it will become part of the ethos of your school. Have I done this? Yes. I was in a new build, new existence primary school. We didn't have the luxury of selecting one year group at a time, and we went the whole hog with nursery to year 6, mixed age classes and a degree of poaching from the local primaries. Oh, and just 3 teachers and no TAs. Often SEN parents are the most disgruntled and they think new school, fresh start equals no problems. So we ended up with more than our fair share of SEN children in that first year. Then, of course, you get the reputation of handling them well, and you get more apply the following year. Before you can do anything, you need to set up your systems. It goes without saying you're going to need an SEN policy, but with a new school, you get to write other policies to have an SEN bias without the worry of treading on the proverbial toes of any historical practice. So, your uniform and behaviour policies can be written with reasonable adjustments already accommodated. There are a number of areas under which you need to consider your systems, so pupils, staff, parents and records. You'll also need to consider their storage. We're mostly electronic these days, although SEN still has a large paper component. If you store your SEN register electronically, who can access the information and how? It's pretty obvious you need to identify your SEN students. Some will be evident. They'll come with an EHCP or an SEN file delivered in its own Royal Mail van. Others may not have been considered SEN in their previous school, and some will arrive for whom you wonder why on earth the school had them down as SEN. Sadly, there are no set criteria for who does and does not belong on the SEN register. Some local authorities provide inclusion matrices, so it's worth checking out what's available in your area. I've put a couple of links in the description box too. The code of practice says it's those students who need something additional to or different from other students in order to address a need that falls under one of the broad SEN areas: cognition and learning, communication and interaction, sensory physical needs, or social, emotional and mental health. This doesn't tell us how long that intervention or support needs to be for, or how often, hence the inevitable variance in who appears on an SEN register. You just need to be clear about what constitutes inclusion on your register. You'll also need a mechanism for staff to alert you to any concerns. In a smaller school, this might be an informal chat during lunch or at a staff meeting, or even an email. However, a formal record is recommended from the beginning. Some schools opt for a paper form, like the one on the screen, whereas others have moved to the 21st century and make use of programs or a Google form or Word form, collecting a nice data trail for you. And so begin your records. I'll do a whole video on records and data retention, but for now you need to be aware that you must keep records. I've used an electronic system for years, but a simple Bradford wallet with a chronology sheet and any attached documents may be sufficient to begin with, bearing in mind it needs to be kept somewhere secure. It's okay, don't panic, this is not a real student. I caused a right furore in a Facebook group once when I posted one of these, and everybody thought I'd posted private data about somebody. As soon as you have concerns about a student, you should be having conversations with parents, and the SEN Code of Practice is actually very clear on this. You need to inform the parents the child will be included on the SEN register, what this actually means, and make a record of it in an easily accessible format. Personally, I have a memory like a sieve and I record everything either on a computer or with pen and paper at the time. If I left it till later, I'd forget half of what was said, if I even remembered to record it later. Just as a side note, your SEN file is a part of any subject access request, or a SAR if requested. All of it, redacted where appropriate, but it shouldn't be necessary in an SEN file. Any notes you take in a personal diary are not subject to a SAR. Beyond your initial concerns and a record of parental engagement, you'll also need records of your assess, plan, do, review cycle. Don't fall into the trap of collecting lots of things because you don't have many students. Think about what will be sustainable. Also, don't fall into the equally dangerous trap of adding students to the register who you wouldn't consider adding if the school was at capacity. Again, you'll regret it. From telling staff who to what to do, you need to keep them informed and wanting more. I am the first to admit that I am not a people person. Do not get me wrong, I'm not outwardly objectionable, but I won't go out of my way to make small talk. I'm very matter of fact, and anyone meeting me for the first time is generally terrified. Of course, you have the advantage of knowing me via these videos, Facebook, Twitter, or the books that I've written, and you know I'm actually not very scary at all. Why do I share this? Because as much as I might know my stuff around SEN, I am absolutely crap at this part of the role. CPD I can do. It's like delivering a lesson to unruly Year 10 on a wet, windy Friday afternoon. Mentoring NQTs? No problem. No different to differentiating a lesson and providing an intervention session. Engaging staff and making them want to follow my lead? No bloody chance. So, I have to rely on my knowledge and a supportive SLT in order to pull staff along with me. I think this is a really important aspect of the role and I wish I was better at it, but I also feel it's important you realise you don't need to be perfect at everything to be a sensible SENCO. I rely on my knowledge, my ability to think out of the box and on my feet, and the fact that over time people realise I'm just a great big softie. You need to find your own footing with the staff in your school. And by staff, I don't just mean the teachers, but your own TA team, the admin team, and the wider support staff, for example, the dinner ladies. Some of you will opt for a weekly written bulletin with an update on SEN matters. Others will opt to speak at a briefing. Perhaps it's more appropriate to simply email relevant staff as and when. Whatever you decide on, make sure it's yours. With GDPR, you might need to be careful with what's presented on paper. Engaging your parents should be relatively easy in a new school. The parents generally want to have a nosy and you're likely to want to show off your new school. Keeping your SEN parents engaged is an entirely different matter. I am a big fan of coffee mornings, a non-pressured environment for a group of individuals who are not necessarily all SEN parents. My sessions were very structured, with 1 hour of training followed by an hour of coffee, cake and general chat. It definitely takes more than one member of staff and requires a degree of preparation, but you can really reap the benefits. For me, it was the parents who stopped expecting me to drop everything in order to deal with them immediately. To be fair, I did run my sessions weekly and I made good use of external voices such as the education psychologist, our own IT team around cyber security, a benefits support group because that was appropriate for my area, and a parent support advocacy. Apart from the informal gathering, you need to engage your parents in the review of their child's progress. Whatever you use, a plan, profile, passport or a piece of paper, the code of practice suggests that this should be reviewed and recorded termly, so that's 3 times a year. Now this doesn't have to be you. In fact, as your school grows, you may find yourself unable to manage that many reviews. But ideally, you need oversight and to meet families at least once a year and have built early relationships. That means they then trust you to get on with the role, even though it may be someone else who is doing their review. As you plod through the year, you'll then need to generate reports and reviews. We've already touched on reviews of student targets with parents, but you have many more stakeholders baying for information. You need to set yourself up to utilise natural data collection points in the academic year rather than generating or asking for additional information. Your colleagues will thank you. Interventions and provisions need to be reviewed too. As a general rule of thumb, an intervention needs reviewing every 10 sessions or so. That means a weekly intervention will be reviewed once a term, whereas a daily intervention will be reviewed once every 2 weeks. Remember, you're not always involved in the delivery of an intervention, and it's important to check that they're going to plan. You don't want to wait till the end of the year to discover the literacy intervention was pitched too high or too low, or that actually they'd done it before. And you'll be surprised how reluctant a TA delivering it will be to tell you that it is not working or that they've gone completely off course. You'll find yourself generating reports for external professionals about progress and the Assess Plan Do Review to SLT, governors about your value for money impact, and to parents about progress. But most importantly, you'll be reporting to yourself with regard to what is and isn't working. Following your reviews, you have to make decisions and move on. There is no stopping as a SENCO. If you enjoyed this video, then please click like, subscribe, and if you haven't had a look at my other offerings, please do. The first video about being a sensible SENCO has a list of suggested video topics at the end, which I'm slowly working my way through. I have said at 1,000 subscribers there'll be a prize draw for a printed bound copy of the SEN Code of Practice. And here is what's coming up next. I think there's enough material there to keep me out of mischief for a while. I also have a list with about another 8 slides like this. Take care. Bye bye.